to the BumbleKast. I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King, and joining me as the co-host I'm always thankful for, Kyle, JCRB Krause.
You're thankful for me? Well, thank you, Ian. I'm thankful that you let me be here. That you allow me to read the questions to you. I appreciate it.
And I appreciate you, and being that it is Canadian Thanksgiving, it is a time for being thankful.
Haha, yes. What is that, the second Monday of October? Or is it
Second Monday in October, and it throws me off every single year because I'm so used to it being the fourth Thursday in November.
True.
Doesn't help that in Animal Crossing, everything is being arranged around the Halloween event. So I'm like, yeah, Halloween stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It comes before Halloween now. Right.
Yeah, well, Thanksgiving this year I think is going to be different on both sides of the border.
Yeah.
Going to be a lot of changes, I think, for most people, sadly.
Usually,
or maybe thankfully for some people.
Usually we go to my mother-in-law's and she cooks a big turkey dinner with all the trimmings and then takes the carcass and stews it overnight to make this delicious turkey soup. And I get extremely sleepy and fat. And then, in a month we drive down and we see my folks and we have another turkey dinner and I get to gloat about having two Thanksgivings and everyone gets really tired of it. This year, I'm cooking for me and Lee. I have never cooked a turkey before, Kyle.
Oh, yeah?
I've never cooked Thanksgiving dinner for anyone. So this year's going to be an experiment. We'll see how it goes.
Just pop it in the oven, man. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. You're a regular cook, though. I mean, you know your way around the kitchen a little bit.
I haven't poisoned anybody yet. I'm
not good.
I am a competent cook. I am a functional cook. I am not going to start my own cooking channel anytime soon.
That's all you really need to be. I mean, if you're not cooking for anybody else except yourself and immediate family, you don't need to be like a freaking gourmet chef. You're fine.
Although, if you're listening to the show and would like to see the new channel Bumble Kitchen, comment below. I can promise you that I will make stuff that's like off the shelf.
Yeah.
Today on the Bumble Kitchen, we're making ramen. Here's the ramen package. You put it in the water. Add a little bit of something that actually tastes like something. There's the noodles. Here's the pork chop we made yesterday. It's going in the broth.
Yep, that's right.
This tastes kind of like food. Thanks for joining.
Kind of like food. This is how you make hamburger helper. Read the directions.
I don't know, man. Either they do something different with Hamburger Helper up here, or they've changed the formula.
They've changed
because the last few times I've had it, it's not good. Not that it was great beforehand, but it was, that nostalgic tastiness, and it is not good now.
Nah, they changed it.
Like, I have tried to turn it into, like, pepper steak. I've added so much seasoning to it, and it's just like, It's not good. It's not the same texture. It's not the same flavor profile. It's not good. It's not good, Kyle.
Nope. I guess that's why you get Kraft dinner and mix meat in with that instead.
I can still rely on rice-a-roni.
Or that. Rice-a-roni's fine. It's a San Francisco treat.
It is indeed. And you know what else is a treat?
The Q&A.
Everyone asking us questions. Yes, that's right. If you want your question answered on the show, email us at BumbleKast@yahoo.com. Tweet to us at BumbleKast. Comment on any of the YouTube videos. If you're a patron, especially the $5 variety, comment anywhere on the Patreon page, message us, comment on a post, whatever. Comment in the Q&A channel on the Discord. If you want to be bumped to the head of the line, become a priority patron for $5, or send us $6 via Ko-fi. That's ko-fi.com/BumbleKast. Make sure to include your name and question so we know what the money's going towards, and we will put you ahead of everybody else because you're special, because you gave us money. Now then, if the question has been answered within the last few episodes, which you can check very easily by going backwards and reading the YouTube descriptions, we're not going to answer it. If it's been answered on one of the FAQs over on BumbleKing.com, we're not going to answer it. If it's a question about what things would have been in the old Archie book, not going to answer it, because I'm going to cover that in Lost Hedgehog Tales one day when it's safe to do so. Please follow those rules to help us out so we can answer your questions sooner and you're not waiting on us to not answer them because you didn't follow the rules.
Alrighty. Let's jump on into the priority Q&A, starting off with one from Chris A. Do the Zeti exist in pre-reboot Archie Sonic? Do the SWAT bots exist in IDW Sonic along with the roboticizer?
Had pre-reboot continued uninterrupted, I'm sure we would have folded in the Deadly Six at some point. Since that storyline is dead and gone forever, you could argue that they're not canon because they never shut up. I don't know. It depends on how particular you want to be. SWAT bots and robotization do not exist in IDW Sonic because they are not game material. They are probably locked in the Set AM vault forever and ever. Amen. I mean, we've already kind of got those with egg pawns. They're essentially SWAT bots.
Yeah.
And the Metal Virus was, to a degree, a kind of version of robotization. So we got kind of, sort of, maybe. Again, depends on how particular you want to be about it.
Next up, Andrew D. Between what issues or event does the Bad Guys miniseries take place?
It is safely snuggled between Sonic number 32 and Sonic number 33.
Wow. Right in between those two issues, huh? Convenient.
It's kind of like a prologue to season 3.
Convenient. Next up, Ink Pants. Ian, my favorite son.
You're not my real dad.
Can you tell us how your involvement in the new Sonic Encyclopedia came about and any cool anecdotes about your work on it? It must have been a really exciting prospect to work on something so aligned with the games. Did you ever picture yourself getting this kind of opportunity back on your humble beginnings at Archie?
Did I ever picture any of this when I got started? No. No. And to be entrusted with this is frankly terrifying because I know there's going to be people who are not satisfied with it no matter what I put in there. Some folks have loftier expectations than what printed media can possibly provide.
Yeah.
But I think folks will enjoy it for what it is. Dark Horse has put out some stellar compilations. So I'm looking forward to what the final product will be. I don't know if I can get too much into the detail of how I was selected, but suffice to say, I've been doing Sonic stuff for a long time. And certain people took notice of that, and I got the gig. It has been a humbling experience because when it was offered, I'm like, sure, this is going to be a walk in the park. I know Sonic like the back of my hand. And there's a fair amount of stuff that, sure, I remember. I've cataloged this. It's been my career for years and years and years. But there was also a lot of stuff that I had forgotten or I had become fuzzy on. So pulling up all this old stuff and doing research and digging out old games and plumbing the depths that is the Sonic lore is just like, wow, there was a lot of nuance or a lot of unanswered questions or just stuff that had just kind of fallen in the cracks. So it's been a good refresher on all things Sonic and how much has been assumed over the years by myself and the fandom trying to spackle the cracks. That is the Sonic timeline, which frankly doesn't exist.
No.
It ain't there. But I don't know. In the end, it's going to be as robust as I can make it, as much as the page count and page space allows. So I hope everyone looks forward to it, and I hope folks enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, it's 30 years of just various different incarnations and everything. I can imagine that losing the details is very easy. Just trying to remember it all. There's a lot of stuff to remember, and it's
there's also the question of how much do you include? Because there's a lot of like side stuff that I want to include because I want this to be as comprehensive as possible. But some of it's like it's so nuanced or so limited. It's like there's just not space for it.
Right.
Do I cut a page here to include that or what? And I don't know. Well, it's something I have to work out with the editors and with Sega, and hopefully everyone will be happy with it.
Let's move on to the next question here from Off. How much input does a writer have over the art of a comic, like the line work and colors? If I'm not mistaken, Evan has done some of her own line work for the issues she's written. More power to her. Her art is amazing. But if an issue looks good in terms of colors and shading, and so on, how much of that is credible to the writer?
Very little, and it depends from project to project. Like, way back in the day when we did the Sonic Riders tie-in story, I believe I suggested that we try to mimic the art style of that super slick trailer. And Tracy freaking nailed it because Tracy's a beast. There are occasional moments where I will try to be very specific in how I want a panel rendered or how we can possibly convey certain things, whether it be through flashback or setting or what have you. And it might depend on the ability of the artist. It might depend on the deadline. It might depend on whether or not the licensor wants to do that. With my scripts, they are more or less the guidelines, the rough blueprints, but I entrust a lot of the creative decisions to the artist because they are the ones realizing it, and sometimes they have a better way of approaching it than I have conceptualized. And it's even more different with something like Dragoon, where it's a collaborative effort between me and Adam, where I might have a very clear vision of what I want to do with it, or I'm less certain and I'm relying on him to come up with it, or he may have a different approach to the characters. Like, case in point, if you read Dragoon Outlaw, which is the small spinoff we did as part of the Shonen Jump contest, the Enchanti species hadn't really been shown yet, and we'd gone a lot of back and forth on how to design it, and he kind of had final say when designing Echo. And it's super cool because Adam is a beast, as we've established with Tracy already. With the Inquisitors, I had a much more pedestrian design in mind, and he took it to completely different places that were super spooky, and it was great. And it inspired me to invent new stuff within the lore to explain away what he had rendered. So, depending on the project, depending on the artist, it can really vary on what comes out.
Next question is from Papadripopolis. So, Ian, you've mentioned you've got some ideas you want to pitch about Cosmo and the Metarex to use in the comics. And as seen in Bad Guys #1, there seems to be a Sonic X reference in the shape of the prison. Is there something to the sudden Sonic X mentions? Did you just happen to rewatch it recently and went, I want to use this stuff? Also, as seen in the New York Comic Con stream, you got a decently nice beard going. Time to update those profile pictures to reflect on that.
You're very kind, but this scraggly thing it only looks full and luscious because I have a very bad web camera. It's not easy to maintain, and I don't do a good job of it. So no. We're going to go with the little cartoony, idealized what Ian wishes he looked like. May I be immortalized in cartoonish Muppet form forever and ever. As for Sonic X stuff, the reference to Sonic X's rendition of Prison Island was just a small Easter egg on my part. I didn't even specify it in the script. I just found that really, really funny back in the day and wanted a chance to use it again. In terms of Sonic X material in general, I'm not a huge fan of the show, to be honest. But there was stuff that I enjoyed about it, and there are elements that the fandom remains passionate about. So it's kind of on my bucket list of things that I want to incorporate in some shape or form, whether it's to satiate my own creative needs or just as something for the fans to enjoy. The same thing with Sonic Heroes. I'm really not a fan of the game, but it's played a major part in a lot of the comic.
Yeah.
So, because it's got neat elements to it. Mm-hmm. If I could use the music, oh my goodness. Sonic Heroes is a fantastic soundtrack. I mean, shoot, there's stuff from the Boom series that I would like to incorporate, remix it and make it fit into the modern aesthetic. But Sonic X isn't particularly special or unique. There's stuff across all the mediums that I want to do with something somewhere. Grammar, syntax.
Sure. I'm a Sonic Heroes apologist, you know. We may be talking about that more in a little bit here, but yeah, I'm like I still like it. It's very flawed. It's a very flawed game. It has major problems, but I still like it. You know, it's one of those things. Next up, Sony has a question. Can I just take this moment to say thank you, Ian, truly, as someone who truly believed that the Zeti has a place in the Sonic world, despite many people saying otherwise. I'm so happy with how you wrote him in the first issue of Bad Guys. I would gladly pay poutine for you. Speaking of, have you tried poutine?
I was going to say, this doesn't sound much like a question, except blind praise, which is nice. I'm very happy you're satisfied. But as for poutine, come on, man. I live in Canada. Of course I've had poutine.
I've had it.
I'm not particularly fond of the cheese curds, but if you go to Smoke's Poutinery and get like the pulled pork poutine,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
good.
It's
great. Any variety of meat and gravy on French fries you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Granted, I was dubious at first because I've grown up with French fries as a side. But once you put enough delicious meat thingies on it, let's wrap up the show so I can go get poutine.
I mean, I am very familiar with using French fries as a vehicle for deliciousness through the gloriousness that is chili cheese fries, which are
True enough.
which are similar. I mean, they don't have the curds, and I mean, you could argue that you could make the argument that the chili is gravy-esque. And if you're putting meat on it anyway,
spiritual cousin to it, I suppose.
Yeah, chili cheese fries are a spiritual cousin to poutine, I would say. So, you know, it wasn't completely new to me to throw meat and deliciousness on top of French fries, but poutine is good. I will not lie. Poutine is very delicious. It's a weird name, though.
It is. But I will never forget when John Gray was up here. And he was eager to partake, and we took him to Smoke's Poutinery, and he looked at the potential listed across the menu, and he just stared in awe as if he had found God.
Yeah, it's certainly an experience. What did I have? The brisket? I think I had the brisket one. It was like 20. This was 5 years ago, but the brisket one was good and real good. Next up from Nani. How old is Chaos mentally and emotionally? If you don't know the concrete answer, do you have a headcanon for his age? Did Sega ever have notes on that?
No notes. And my headcanon is that he doesn't really have an age. He's just kind of a thing. He is an element. He doesn't possess the emotion so much as he is the emotion. He is a sense of protection and nurturing around the Chow. And when they were attacked, it became that of defensiveness and anger. I don't really see Chaos as a being with well-defined thoughts and individuality. I just see him more as a force of nature. Nani has a question for you, Kyle.
Uh-oh. What's the question?
Seeing how we're in the spooky month, why not ask about something that's truly terrifying? Are there any video games you will never give another chance, no matter what, due to their content? This includes file-eating bugs and glitches that could corrupt the entire save.
I couldn't think of any that were like so outright buggy that I would never play them again. And like I never had a game eat my save file except once. And that was in the version 1 revision of Gran Turismo 2, where if you did I want to say it was like the 1,000 meter brake test, it would erase your garage. So all your cars would be gone. You could get around it by not saving, because this is back in the day when you had to manually save and it wouldn't do it for you because it was a PS1 game. But still a bit scary. And that was only in the original release, though. If you sent your discs in to get the revision with the bug fixed, then you never had to worry about it. But that's the only one I could think of. And I mean, I'll still play the game. It's not going to stop me. But that's like the most game-breakingest bug I can think of that I've ever personally encountered that would have ruined my game if I had not saved it. But luckily, I knew it was a thing, so I just didn't do the break test. But otherwise, there are games that I just won't play again because they're complete garbage. Like San Francisco Rush for the original PlayStation. It barely even looks like San Francisco Rush, the arcade game, or even the N64 game. It's a completely different game, and it's not good. I don't know what they were thinking, but it's just complete crap. The N64 San Francisco Rush is not a perfect port of the arcade version, but at the very least, it kind of resembles it. The PS1 port doesn't even resemble it. It's so bad. It's just so bad. And a more recent game, Flat Out 3 for PC, which is a dirt track racing game, kind of like Burnout, but slightly more realistic, I suppose. Well, Flat Out 1 and 2 are. Flat Out 3 is complete trash. It's completely... They just... for some reason, the original developers and the publisher had a fallout, and the IP got... I don't know what happened to the IP. It seems like it either got sold off or transferred somewhere, and they just made a cheap cash-in game with that license, and it's just terrible. It completely ruins the franchise. It's so bad. It retroactively reflects poorly on the first two games, which are great. I love Flat Out 1 and 2. But at least the developers of those two games eventually went on to do Wreckfest. So, the outcome wasn't all bad, for what that's worth. But yeah, Flat Out 3 was like just a shameful thing that... Ugh, disgusting. I don't want to play it ever again. It's just gross.
I could hear the shiver of the revulsion.
Yeah, well, I could feel it. Blue Title Gamer has a question for you, Ian. I've really been enjoying how you've approached the Deadly Six in the IDW series so far compared to their introduction in Sonic Lost World, especially Zavok. I do think that Zavok has potential to be a better villain than how the games portray him as, and after Bad Guys Issue 1, I'm really excited to see how he and Dr. Starline will clash. My question is, what do you feel is the right approach for Zavok in order to try and win more people over to him, as he still tends to this day to not be liked by a good chunk of the fan base?
Number one, they're not wrong. I mean, I didn't find them as offensive as some people did, but there wasn't a lot of meat to the Deadly Six on their introduction.
Right, yep, I agree.
And in Sonic Runners, that had a event focusing primarily on Zaz, but it gave a lot of much needed characterization to a lot of the Deadly Six. Not so much to Zaman, but that's kind of his thing, as he doesn't have much to him. And that informed a lot of what I did with the Deadly Six. And Sega had a lot of notes on them as we were doing the end of the Metal Virus saga, especially on Xena. So there's a lot of input for me to work with in that regard. As for Zavok specifically, for me, he falls into one of my favorite villain tropes, which is the eloquent monster.
Yeah.
Someone who is bestial and primal and just terrifying to behold, but also has an air of sophistication and intelligence. They're not just a snarling brute, but they are someone that can string two words together and can have a degree of calculated malice, which makes all of their bestial power that much more threatening, because it isn't just some wild animal going amok. It's someone who can tear you to shreds and knows the worst ways to do it. See the Shadow Broker out of Mass Effect. So that's my approach with Zavok, is someone who is calculating and eloquent in their presentation, but when it comes down to the fight, he will literally bite your head off if he gets the chance.
What What's funny about Zavok is that he gets a lot of criticism as being a cheap Bowser clone, and I've never seen him that way. Like you say, he has an air of eloquence and sophistication to him that I don't think Bowser really has.
No, but he's also a horned, vaguely reptilian fire breather who lives in a lava castle in the final world.
I know, I understand.
He grows super big for the final fight.
I know, I understand that, but like, it's just, they do have their differences. They're not identical.
No,
the inspiration is fairly clear, but it's not 100%.
Bowser's got a better design.
Well, I mean, he's more timeless because he's been around for a long time, and they've been able to refine his design. And yeah, I know. I like Bowser better too, but it just seems really kind of dismissive to completely just say he's outright a Bowser clone. So that's okay.
Sure.
I suppose.
Sure. Now, Blue Title Gamer has a question for you, Kyle.
Oh boy, here we go.
Do you have any favorite games that you'd consider a guilty pleasure?
Well, I don't really feel guilty about them. Like, is that a thing? Like, I understand that maybe I should feel guilty about them, but I don't.
Close enough.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't feel guilty about liking Sonic Heroes. I will acknowledge that it has massive problems, but I still like it, and that's fine. I'm fine with it. And so it's just, I think a lot of it does have to do with the music, but I also do find it kind of fun. It's a bit repetitive having to play through all the same stages with the similar characters multiple times in order to finish it. But on that same token, it's actually kind of relaxing in a way, in that way. There's definitely frustrating points. The special stages are hot garbage. Like they're not good. They're not good. They're not well done. The final battle against Metal Overlord as Super Sonic. No, it's completely broken. I don't understand. I still don't understand how it's even supposed to work, because there's so many like invisible walls everywhere, and it's just that's completely broken. But I don't know. There's still something about it that's appealing to me. I like it better than Sonic Adventure 2, which is probably going to make people very mad. To which I say,
sacrilege.
To which I say, come at me, bros. I also do love me some Warriors / Muso games. Oh, they're so fun. Just slaughtering down complete armies as a freaking like god is awesome. It is so awesome. It is so cool. I love them, especially Hyrule Warriors, which is funny because I'm not like a huge Zelda fan. I like Zelda games, but I've never been like super into them, and I've not played all of them. But for some reason, Hyrule Warriors just hits me right perfectly, because even though I haven't played many Zelda games, I've seen and played enough of them to know a lot of what they're referencing, so I can still appreciate it for the references, and because I like Zelda characters. Zelda characters are great. I just, the games I don't necessarily sit down and play all that often. So
I think the magic balance with Hyrule Warriors is that it's indulgent in all the right ways.
Yeah.
It is, you are playing the world's best written fanfic, and you are given the power of a god to just lay waste to all the bad guys.
Yeah.
Until you're given the power of God to lay waste all the good guys, so that you can lay waste all the bad guys again as the good guys again. And it's so good.
The fact that almost everybody is playable in some form or another, whether they're good or evil, it's brilliant. It's perfect.
Oh yeah.
I can't wait for the next one. I can't wait for the Age of Calamity. It's going to be so good.
We're not going to get on that topic, or we're never going to finish the show.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on and on and on and on and on.
Oh, yeah. That might be something we have to break out the actual episode numbers for to talk about at some point. I also do have a soft spot for the Dead or Alive series, the fighting game specifically. I've not played the dating sims, but the fighting games, I like them. They're silly. It's a very just kind of stupid fan servicey game, but it actually has some pretty good fighting mechanics too. So it's not all just silliness. I still stand by Super Princess Peach. I think it's a pretty good, fun little platformer. People criticize it because it's a game starring a woman focused on emotions, but here's the thing. The whole point of the game is that Peach is the only one who can control her emotions. No one else can. Mario and everybody else is overcome with emotional strife, and she has to go out and be the one to who actually has control over her emotions and be the one to save the kingdom. So I think that's a nice kind of twist on an old school formula. Golden Axe Beast Rider, I like just because it's stupid. I like stupid games. That's my thing, apparently. Same with Lollipop Chainsaw. It's completely stupid. Metal Wolf Chaos is the same way. They're just dumb. They're just dumb fun. And that's all I want. That's all I want in video games a lot of the time. Just something to turn your brain off and have completely stupid things happening. That's really all I want in life, really. Because I'm sick of my brain. So, those are some of my guilty pleasures, I suppose. I'm not guilty about them, but, you know. What about you, Ian? What are some games you enjoy, but you're maybe not necessarily
going to admit
it? I suppose.
Shoot, I haven't really thought about it because the question was posed to you. I didn't think about it.
Well, I always turn it around back on you sometimes.
I guess I feel a little dirty with just how much time I've spent on Tales of Krystoria, which is a very buggy gacha. And, I mean, gachas in and of themselves kind of feel dirty because it's a thinly veiled attempt to get your money.
Yeah.
Some of them are better about the gameplay than others, but you know that down at the bottom of it they want you to spend money to get the thing. I like getting the thing. I've never been suckered into spending the money on it. And Krystoria itself is, bugginess aside, Kyle, the game wouldn't load half the time when they launched because of a bug in the chat system.
Whoops.
You literally couldn't go to the guild management screen because it would try to load the guild chat and break the game. It was... Anyway.
Sounds like a mobile game to me.
Yeah. I mean,
especially newly launched mobile game.
And the drop rates are just atrocious. But I'm a fan of the Tales of series. I'm really fond of the design aesthetic. The localization on the story is top notch. The music is solid. And who cares if most of the game is running on auto as I, do something else and just hit the button so I can get the thing, so I can level up the character, so I can hit auto, so I can hit the thing, and it's completely a Skinner box. But darn it, it's a nice Skinner box. I like the box. I press button, people do swinging anime things, explosion, yay.
Sometimes you just need a nice boost of...
endorphins?
Yeah, sometimes you just need a nice endorphin boost. Sometimes you do. It's fine. Why do you think I like stupid games with dumb or no stories that are just button mash action? It's the same kind of thing. All right, let's go ahead and get into the standard Q&A this week. First up from J Chance. Ian, why do you like All Might so much?
Because he's the best written Superman we've had in a long time. He's obscenely powerful, and yet he's still relatable and vulnerable and inspiring and comforting. He's this paragon of virtue and heroism, and he's the biggest dork around. He's Clark Kent and he's Superman. He's the quintessential distillation of the character and just remixed enough that it's refreshing and engaging. And I freaking love the voice and the catchphrase of "It's okay." Why? Because I'm here. It's got that air of arrogance to it that comes from someone who is supremely powerful, but it's also reassuring because That's why he's there. He's going to make it all right. He's going to fix things. He's going to save everyone because he's here. And it's just thrilling. And he's so freaking camp that it's delightful. I mean, when he's yelling Detroit smash and punching something, and then the entire city block explodes from the impact. It's dumb, and I love it. And the pacing of his appearances, and I've only been going by the anime. I know the manga is like way far ahead, so no comments on that in the chat. Don't spoil it for me. But like, the first time you really see him let loose, when the League of Villains has attacked the training center, and he goes mano a mano against the first Nomu, which has been established to be just bad news. And he is going all out on this thing and just ripping it up. It's just stunning. And then he puts that thing into freaking orbit, and he's standing there bloodied and tattered, and he's like, in my prime, I would have felled it in one mighty blow. But this one took me 300. It's like, dude, you just hit somebody with the force of the freaking meteor that killed the dinosaurs, and you're laughing it off. His showdown with the All for One. Kyle, I still got on the edge of my seat, and I know how it ends. Is United States of Smash plus Ultra. I love it.
Holy crap, dude. Now I want to watch My Hero Academia. I've never watched. The
show is fantastic. It is an anime interpretation of everything Western comics have done since like the 60s.
Yeah.
Like All Might himself, when he's fully transformed, is super heavily inked like an old 90s comic book hero. There's a villain that shows up in the second season who is entirely a Ninja Turtles 90s grunge comic nod.
Yeah.
It's got all the trappings of Western superheroics, but done through the shonen manga filter, and it works. And it's so good. And cannot wait for the next season.
Man, this is the first time I've actually been like, man, now I do want to watch this.
Oh my God.
Mean, it sounded pretty neat before. It sounded like something I might enjoy before, but now I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Like, if you like anime but feel like it's a little too Japanesey sometimes, and if you like superhero books but you feel like they've been trapped in the same loops for the past 20 years, this solves both. It's very anime, and it's very Western comic books, and it's peanut butter and jelly, and I love it.
Considering
I love it.
Considering I love F-Zero, and that has become sort of a very similar sort of superheroes through a Japanese anime lens, I would probably really enjoy My Hero, because that sounds good. That sounds really good.
Last season, not to spoil too much, but the last season, it was following up a very, very dramatic arc. So this one was much more silly and down to earth.
Mm-hmm.
And the bad guy's plot is basically just to piss on everyone's parade. You know, there no lives are at stake. There's no real danger. It's more of a moral loss.
Yeah.
And it was just as intense as the life or death battle last season, because you want these kids to have a nice thing, damn it. They've worked so hard. Just let them have this nice thing. Gentle criminal, frig off, man. Good stuff. Good stuff.
All right. Maybe I'll check it out in a few years when I finally get through the rest of my backlog. Next up, we got one from T-Rack. Does IDW have to obey the mandate Sega made for Archie? In example, no nega. Characters are forbidden in forming intimate relationships. Sega original characters weren't allowed familiar relationships. No changing wardrobes for Sega characters, etc.
Yeah, pretty much the rules are the rules. That's just the standards for the license. I don't know about Dr. Nega. We haven't tried anything with him yet. But yeah, you're not going to see any of the Sega characters settle down with each other and live happily ever after. You're not going to see any significant wardrobe changes. I think Evan Stanley found a workaround with her first arc, but that's because she's using official material to work off of. I'm not quite sure how much got approved because I didn't write the book. That's so weird. But yeah, the rules are pretty much the same because that's the rules. That's the license. That's how they want the thing portrayed.
Next up from Steph Cube. How was the process of creating characters like Whisper or Tangle? You told the artist how the character had to be and they created it based on that, or is it Sega who asks for them?
I initiate the character, and it varies from character to character on how much guidance I provide. Like with Tangle, I initially envisioned her as a rabbit. She was supposed to be an homage to the prototype for Sonic with the ears that would grab enemies and throw them, which was later used for Rystar. And Sega said, don't make her a rabbit. So we went through a few ideas, and I don't remember how we settled on lemur, but that was then Tyson's take on Tangle. Took what we initially had in mind and put it through the lemur filter, and that's what we got. With Whisper, I had the general idea, a very composed, very muted character that was a wolf and a sniper. But I left it up to Evan to figure out how to make that work. And Sega had a lot of notes back and forth. She came up with the mask for the design. And that informed the story from there. Because like, okay, what does the mask do? Well, it helps you talk to the wisps. Cool, that makes sense. Rough and Tumble, I had the very core idea that they were two brutes that had a brotherly bond. And they were the Rocksteady and Bebop, the Hack and Slash, the Jesse and James, the two mooks that show up to get beat up every now and again. And I left that entirely up to Tyson. Like, they could have been two different species, and they refer to each other as brother in the figurative sense. They could have been the same species and are actual brothers. It was way up to his interpretation, and he just mined gold because Tyson is a beast. Starline was based off of something in particular that I don't want to go into too much detail yet, because he was originally meant to be part of a trio that were all themed a certain way in their origins, and we whittled it down to just Dr. Starline because that was way, way too unfocused, especially with Metal Virus going on. And from that basis, Evan took her spin on it, and then Sega put their input on it, and there was a lot of back and forth on head design and mannerism, just in body language and color design and ba. So I initiate, I give the seed of the idea, but it's up to the artist and the editorial team and Sega to cultivate it into the final version.
Nice. Next question is from Tick Tick. There's a YouTuber I really respect, but it keeps bothering me because he says Archie Sonic was rebooted twice because he claims that Genesis was a reboot, while I say it was merely a plot device to facilitate an anniversary story. Can you settle this debate by telling us if Genesis was a reboot or not?
You're both right. Genesis was a reboot for the sake of the story. There were rough plans to potentially spin Genesis off into its own thing, but those plans never materialized. So had it gone on, yes, it would have been a reboot to facilitate a new story. But as it is, it's a reboot contained within its own event.
Yeah.
So again, depends on how particular you want to be about it.
I think that was around the first year that I went to San Diego Comic-Con and we met. And I remember that being a big thing about how you guys were trying to reassure people that it's not a full reboot. It's not a complete reboot. It seemed like a kind of maybe a soft-ish reboot in a sense, but I think a lot of people were worried because Genesis had just come out, and after everything that had happened in the story leading up to it, people were freaking out about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it makes sense, but they're both right. How weird. Great. Now you've made them fight even more, Ian. See what you've done? It's fine.
What he said was true from a certain point of view.
Ho, ho, ho. Do it. Red Scarf UK wants to know, I saw a joke comic a couple weeks back on Twitter where Amy had enough of whatever was going on and decided to remove her bracelets causing Sonic and Silver to be suddenly very worried and Shadow to get some popcorn. The implication being her bracelets are like Shadow's inhibitor rings. And that got me thinking, what if they really are inhibitor rings? What sort of crazy powers do you think she could unleash after taking them off? And how much trouble would Sonic be in?
This skates right on the line of fan idea.
It really does, but I also kind of liked it. So
yeah, it does raise the question of what are Amy's abilities, because dang it, the girl has had a lot and they never seem to be fully realized. Like, where does the hammer come from?
Hammer
What
space.
is the nature of the Pico hammer? She turned invisible in Sonic 06. What in the world? She's had the tarot card reading. She's had implications that she's got some kind of ESP in certain stuff, whether it's in the game or cut content. It's like, I wish they would play more with her potential powers, but I don't know. In terms of what would happen to Sonic, I think we've moved beyond the crazy stalker girlfriend characterization, so he would be fine. He'd be in great hands because Amy's poorly defined superpowers would protect them all.
What do they do? We don't know.
When do we want it? Now!
Yeah, kind of like that. Sure. I would still like to see that. It's still funny to me. I like it. So, all right, and that's all the questions we have for this week. But we were submitted a song, Ian. We want to go out in song.
Before we do that,
okay,
I'm going to wrap it up by giving a big thank you to all the patrons who make this show possible. Thank you to Jay Frost, Piggy Bank, Daniel B, Somewhat Gooey, Rachel W, Godzilla, Invade Turbo Tunis, Chaos Universe, Sonic Legacy, Lauren W, Off, John D, Jennifer H, Sony, Owen BD, Preston M, Salute Your Cat, Blue Tidal Gamer, Koopling Crew 128, Yami, Andrew D, Final Neil, Tick Tick, Justin S, Papadripadopoulos, Silly String, Takaro, Overthinking Films, Lisa M, Torchbound, Scruffy Matt, Lee HK, Dawn B, Chevelle, Chris A, Dizdin, John B, John M, Jennifer R, Mike B, Samuel P, Robotnik Holmes, Daniel H, Alex P, Justin G, Dave M, James K, and Sam Cybercat.
Yay! Thank you, everybody, for being our patron. You're great. You're great. You're great. Remember that. You're great. No matter what anybody else tells you, you're great. That goes for everybody, really. Almost everybody.
Kyle, where can they find you when the show is done?
You can find me on Twitter. You can come yell at me over there if you want, at KyleJCRB. You can tell me how wrong I am for saying Sonic Heroes is more fun than Sonic Adventure 2. Or, I mean, whatever. It's fine. I'm not gonna argue with you. If you like Sonic Adventure 2 better, that's totally cool. I'm glad somebody likes Sonic Adventure 2. You can also head on over to kngi.org. We can find archived episodes of BumbleKast in MP3 downloadable format. You can also find my other show, Nitro Game Injection, which you can listen to streaming live on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Or you can find the archived episodes over at kngi.org at any time. Where can people find you, Ian?
You can find me on Twitter at IanFlynnBKC, my personal website, bumbleking.com, and read my free webcomic done with Adam Bryce Thomas. That's Drogoon, DROGUNE.com.
Don't forget to also check out the show on Twitter at BumbleKast, where you can ask your questions. Email us at bumblecast@yahoo.com. And you can listen on Apple Podcast, YouTube Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, our YouTube channel, and kngi.org, of course.
You can also support the show by purchasing stuff from the Bumble Store. That's shop.spreadshirt.com/Bumble Store.
Don't forget to also check out the BumbleKast Gaming live streams on Twitch at twitch.tv/BumbleKast Gaming on Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. There's also the possibility of random bonus streams throughout the week, so keep an eye on Twitter for announcements, or give us a follow on Twitch and get notified when we go live.
It's going to wrap us up for this episode of BumbleKast. We'll see you next week for even more Q&A. Be good, everybody.
See you guys later. You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org.
All right. Can you talk to me so I can see how my headphones are doing?
This is me speaking to you. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yep.
Head to audible.com/BumbleKast and use the code BumbleKast to get 0% off your order.